Question 1. Frank wants to eliminate the variable y from the system below. Which step will be used to eliminate y? You would have to think about how you get the y's to be the same number but opposite sides. So what you would do is you can multiply the bottom equation by 3. If you did that, the top equation would be 7x minus 6y equals 8. The bottom equation would be 6x plus 6y equals 18. What you would see is the y values would cancel out, allowing you to solve for x. So the correct choice for number 1 was choice 1. Question 2 is definitely a tricky question. Can you use substitution to solve the system? Now, if you look at your choices, all of these choices have a substitution into the second equation. So that means you want to take the first equation and solve it for x, and then solve it for y, and see which substitution is correct. So if I take the top equation, I solve it for y, we get 2x equals 5 plus 5. When I subtract 5, we get that 2x minus 5 equals y. So I want to look at the y position of the second equation. It would be here and here as far as my choices go. Neither choice has a substitution of 2x minus 5, which is the correct way to solve for y substitute. So these choices are not correct. Now I have to go back to the drawing board. I have to take my equation, and solve it for x. So get y. So 2x equals 5 plus 5, and then divide by 2. X equals 1/2 y, or y divided by 2, plus 5 over 2. Now I'm going to look at the x position of the second equation. Here and here in your choices, see which one to solve correctly. So if you look at your choices, the one that's substituted incorrectly is choice 3. Question 3. You have to read very carefully. So if McGee's earnings were 0.005 million more than his teammate Fitzpatrick's, in order to get this to balance out, we would have to put the 0.005 with Fitzpatrick's salary to equal McGee's salary. So the first equation should be Fitzpatrick's salary plus 0.005 million equals McGee's earnings. So this way, the equation is balanced. The two players will earn a total of $3.95 million. So McGee and Fitzpatrick earn $3.95 million. So the correct choice here would be choice 1. Okay, for number 4, it asks me how many solutions does the following system of equations have. So there's multiple ways to solve a system. Algebraically, we could try elimination or substitution, or get the result of y equals mx plus b form. We should get the same answer regardless of how we attempt this. So I'm going to take both of my equations and get them into y equals mx plus b form. So for the first equation, I'm going to start by subtracting my 2x. 5y, 2x plus 7, divided by 5. Y equals negative 2/5 x plus 7 over 5. I take my second equation, 10y equals negative 4x plus 14, and divide by 10. So I get y equals, now if I simplify these fractions, I get negative 2/5 x plus 7 over 5. Now you can see here that both of these equations are the same. They have the same slope, they have the same y-intercept. So if I went to graph these, I would be drawing the same line on top of itself. They're going to intersect at every single point, so I have infinitely many solutions. Number 5 asks, when solved graphically, which system of equations would have exactly one point of intersection. So if you take a look at all of these systems, choice 2, I have the same slope. If my two lines have the same slope, that means they're parallel and they're not going to ever intersect. So choice 2 will not have one point of intersection. Choice 3, if I look at the slope quickly, it doesn't look like they're the same, but that's just because one is fraction form, one is decimal form. 3/5 is the same as 0.6x.
plus 12. So again, these two, this system has the same slope, so they'll never intersect. Same with choice 4, they both have a slope of -1. They're parallel, they won't intersect. When I look at choice 1, these two slopes, one is -1, one is +1. That means at some point, those two lines will intersect at one point of intersection. Question 6 is just asking me what is the solution to the system of equations. So I'm looking for this point at which they intersect. So that's over at -1, comma, -2, which is choice 3. And question 7 talks about a phone company, and it costs $49.99 per month, and then charges an additional fee for each text message sent. The cost for T text messages is given by this equation. So Y is my cost, and T is the amount of text messages. And it's asking me what is the best representation for the value 0.1. So 0.1 is really the slope, but it's what's multiplying the amount of text messages. So that's going to show the amount of money they're charging me for each text message.
Okay, taking a look at question 8, you had to solve for x. That means you want to get the x. There are different ways you can think about this. It's tricky because the fraction was being divided by x. So the first thing I did is I recognized there was one fraction on the left side of the problem and one fraction on the right. So I was going to cross multiply. So we get 4tx equals 3y plus 2z. So if I want to get the x alone, it's attached right now to the 4 and the t by multiplication. So I'm going to divide. So 4 is the t cross out. So the correct choice should have been choice 3. Question number 9. In order to see which graph represents the equation, you would have to take the equation, put it into slope intercept. So I'm going to subtract 2.5x. 5y negative 2.5x. And then divide by 5. So I get y equals negative 5x minus 6. Half x minus 6 if you wanted to express the equation using fractions. The first thing I want to look for is y-intercept of -6. So I want to find graph crosses the y-axis, at -6. 1 does not, crosses up here. 3 does not. Choice 2 and choice 4 both cross the y-axis at -6. But I also need to look for a slope of -1/2, which is what I'm looking at. I can eliminate choice 2 because the slope when you go from left to right goes up. So choice 4 must be correct, but if I wanted to check, I could see this is down 2 over 4, down 2 over 4. 2 divided by 4 simplifies to 1/2. So the correct choice for number 9 is choice 4. Number 10, you have to know the definition of a rational number. A rational number is a terminating decimal, repeating decimal, or a fraction. The fraction must be made up of integers. Sorry, that's space a little bit. Okay, so if you look at choice 1, it's rational, rational, rational. Sorry, can't see where I'm writing here. Alright guys, let's revise that. If you look at choice 1, pi is irrational, 1/2 is rational, -13 is rational. If you look at choice 2, the -3.50441 ... is irrational. Square root of 99 is also irrational. But the third value here is a terminating decimal, so that's rational. There's only one rational. If you look at choice 3, this would be rational. So it would also be rational in some place. Choice 4, this would be irrational, rational, rational. So the only choice that has one rational number is choice 2. Looking at question 11, you want to write a function f of x to represent how much money Alex collected. So I'm going to start with f of x equals. I know adult tickets cost $6.50, student tickets cost $4. X adult tickets and 12 student tickets. So if I know I sell X adult tickets and adult tickets cost $6.50, I'm going to 650 times X times the number of adult tickets. Plus, if I know student tickets cost $4 and I sold 12 of them, I know he's collecting that amount of key as well. You could have left your equation like that, or you could have multiplied 4 times the 12 to get 4. Either way, it'll be fine. Yes.
Okay, number 12 is talking about two guys working at a furniture store and talking about their salary. So guy is paid $185 per week plus 3% of his total sales in dollars X, which can be represented using the G of X. Jim is paid $275 per week plus 2.5% of his sales in dollars X, which can be represented by F. So I have two functions here representing both of these salaries and determining the value of X in dollars that will make this weekly pay for them the same. So if I want to find out what X value makes their weekly pay the same, I need to set G of X equal to F of X. So I'm going to take the 185 plus 0.03X instead of equal to 275 plus 0.025X. And now I'm going to solve for X. So I'm going to start by subtracting my X term. And when I subtract here, I get negative 0.005X. Subtract my 275. Negative 90 is equal to negative 0.005x. Now I just need to divide to get x by itself. When you divide negative 90 by negative 0.005, you get an x value of positive 18,000. So $18,000 will make their weekly pay the same. For question 13, we're talking about an electronics store that spends $4.25 per package of batteries and $5.75 per travel drive. So Debbie is noticing that the store spent $1,931.25 on purchasing batteries and travel drives last month. Later, she finds a record showing that there were a total of 375 items purchased that consisted of those batteries and travel drives. So we're being asked to create a system of equations to represent the possible packages of batteries B and travel drives T that were purchased last month, and then determine how many travel drives were purchased. Okay, so we're starting out by creating this system of equations. They gave me my variables. They told me that batteries is B and travel drives is T, so I don't need a let statement. So I'm going to start out by saying, okay, if there were a total of 375 items purchased, that means that if I take B plus T, I should have 375. And I go back to the beginning. 425 is how much a package of batteries is. So I'm going to take 425 and multiply it by B. And 575 is the amount for travel drive. So I'm going to add that up to 575 times T. And it says that she spent $1,931.25. So I'm going to set that equal to the total. So here's my system of equations. And now I need to solve because I'm ultimately looking for how many travel drives were purchased. So there's more than one way to solve this. You could have tried elimination or substitution. I chose substitution. So I took my first equation and I solved for B. So I got the equation B is equal to 375 minus T. Now I'm going to take that value for B and I'm going to substitute it in for B in my second equation. So I get 425 times my new value for B, which is 375 minus T, plus 575 times T equal to my total. And now I'm going to solve for T. So I'm going to start by distributing, and I get 1,593.75 minus the 425T plus 575T equal to my total. I have some like terms I can combine. I have 1,593.75 plus 1.5T to the total. Start isolating T, so I'm going to subtract my constant. And I get 1.5T is equal to 337.5 divide by that 1.5 to isolate t, I get a t value of 225. And because the question asked me to find how many travel drives were purchased last month, just by finding t, I answered quote.
Okay, to take a look at the last question, you have to determine and state whether you agreed with Albert that the systems shown have the same solution. So I'm going to solve those and see if they have the same answer. I'm going to take the first system and solve. So it's set up to use elimination. It's the easiest method, so I'm going to multiply the top equation by 3 and the bottom equation by -2 in order to get the x's. You could have chosen to get the y's. When I distribute the 3 to each term, I get 24x plus 27y equals 144. When I distribute the -2 to each term, from the second equation, I get -24x minus 10y equals -42. When you add up and down, x's will cancel out, giving you 17y equals 102. If you divide both sides by 17 to solve for y in the first system is 6. To find the x value, take either original, I'm going to take the top, and sub in the y value that you got. So 8x plus 9 times 6 equals 48. 8x plus 54 equals 48. To solve for x, so 8x equals -6, divide by 8. So x equals -6 over 8, which is -3/4. So there's my first step. Now I want to look at the second system. To solve the second system, I notice the first equation is the same, but the second one is not. This can be easier to solve by substitution because it's easier to isolate this y variable in the second equation. If you divide both sides by -5, so y equals 6. So far this is looking good. The y values of both systems are the same. I still don't know it's the same system unless I check the x. So I'm going to take either, so I have to take the top equation because that's okay. Now I know they should be the same because I just checked y in that first system. I'm just going to show it. 8x plus 54 equals 48. Again, if I go through and solve for x, I should get -6 over 8, which is -3. So then you would have to say, I agree did justify your answer because you supported it with work.
Okay, and for the last question, which was a graphing question, you were doing a system of equations graphically. So we had two salons here, Oak Grove and Beauty by Anita. So the first thing I need to do here, if I'm going to write a system of equations, they did not define a variable for me. So if you read through this question, we're talking about number of hours. That's what we're going to let x equal. And we're going to let y equal the cost. So if I look at Oak Grove, the information they gave me was that Oak Grove charged $10 per hour and an initial fee of $50. So that would be y equals 10x plus 50. There's my initial fee, and there's my slope, which is 10 times the number of hours. Then I have Beauty by Anita, and she just charges an hourly rate of 20, so that's going to be y equals 20x with no initial fee. So now my goal here is to graph these two equations. So if I start out with Oak Grove, I know I have a y-intercept of 50, so my y-axis is going up by 10, so I'm going to plot that y-intercept, and my slope is 10, so I'm going to go up 10 over 1 and plot my points. Line here. And then label this with either the equation, or you could write Oak Grove. I'm just going to label it with y equals 10x plus 50. Now my second equation was y equals 20x. So the y-intercept there would be 0, but this slope is 20. So I'm going up 20 over 1. 20 one. Okay, now I'm going to go and graph that equation. Label that line, y equals 20x. So it tells me here to determine state after how many hours Ms. Morrison will pay the same amount. So that's based off my intersection point, and we're talking about the amount of hours. If I look down on my x-axis, they're intersecting. So I have to determine and state that. So either writing out 5 hours or labeling my intersection point 5, 100. And if I go down to the bottom, it says if it takes 4 hours to complete the bridal party's hair and makeup, which salon should you choose? So if just looking at the graph at 4 hours, if we looked up here, you can see that this would be much lower. This is 4,80, and this I can't really, this is 4,90. So right there I can see that Beauty by Anita would be cheaper, but only be $80. So I need to state that Beauty by Anita would be the cheaper company to go with. And then some kind of either explanation, looking at your graph, you can say that if I plug in 4, I get $80 for cost, and if I looked at Oaks, show that that cost would be negative. Some kind of explanation, either graphically or showing your